Chris Curtis and Kevin Gastelum.
Yeah.
Probably, I'm going to say fight of the night, maybe. I don't know. I'm just saying it's... I mean,
it was a great fight. It was a great fight.
Yeah, and it was back and forth, and Gastelum looked better than he ever has, I thought. And I thought he looked quick. He was, bouncing. His boxing was amazing. Back and forth exchanges. I mean, Chris Curtis is one of those guys where you just don't get in. It's hard. He's hard to hit. He slips punches. He covers up good, and he's a very good boxer, and he's hard to hit. But Gastelum tagged him. I mean, he tagged him a number of times, and it was... he looked really, really good, and I know that.
So light on his feet, like you were saying. I think that, whatever. A lot, the DC, Rogan, and Anik were just saying, like, when you see Kelvin light on his feet, that's when he's his best.
Yeah, he looked amazing. I mean, he looked like legit, like he could give Izzy another run for his. I mean,
right. That's what probably some people might forget is before Pereira came along, Gastelum was the only one who really touched up Izzy.
Right.
You know what I mean? That if you look at the picture,
gave him a fight. Yeah.
Right, yeah. Well, and like the reason I say touched up is because I saw a picture on Twitter maybe or whatever a while back that it's like Izzy after all of his fights, and like the only one where he looked really messed up was after Gastelum.
Well, and that was the one in the 5th round. He kept saying, "I'm prepared to die.
Yeah.
I'm prepared to die."
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. No.
I mean, that was definitely his toughest fight. I mean, maybe besides getting knocked out by Pereira the first time, but I mean, that was a war for sure. God,
yeah. I would love to see where Kelvin's going to go next. I mean, it was a great fight, like you said, arguably fight of the night. Chris Curtis is no joke. One thing I will say about Chris Curtis that I kind of don't like, and whatever, his interactions on Twitter are kind of not my favorite. And I'll say one thing: it's just like there's random people commenting on his post saying, man, I really thought I had Kelvin 2-1, just not argumentative or anything. And he's writing paragraphs back.
Yeah, you guys
to
are telling me that.
multiple random people. And it's like, dude, you're making yourself look like, I don't like maybe you didn't think you won or what. I don't know what you're doing, but he's like writing, like I said, he's using all 280 characters to make his point to random guys like me and you. Well, it wasn't us, but it was just random people. You know what I mean? And he's like,
I mean, that kind of shows like, forth. I mean, I get it. Maybe he thought he won the fight, and it was a very close fight. I mean, you could probably, like, if I went and watched it again, I probably would think Gastelum won again. But there's probably, whatever, the fighter himself obviously maybe thinks that differently because he was in there and he knows how many punches he took and how many punches. But from the outside perspective, from the judge's perspective, from our perspective, what are we seeing? We're seeing Gastelum kind of dominate the exchanges.
And I feel like cage presence has a lot to do with that. Like Kelvin is bouncing up and down for 3 rounds, staying really active, looking like he's in the best shape of his life. Not saying Chris Curtis didn't look like that either, but it's just like Kelvin looked so impressive that probably had a lot to do with it. Yeah,
he did. He looked good, and I think that Chris Curtis kind of thought, maybe he underestimated him too. And that's probably what happened, I would think, because nobody thought they were going to see the Kevin Gastelum that came out on Saturday. That's for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Like right away, like I said, Rogan, DC, and Anik were like, "Oh man, he's like bouncing up and down. This is the best Kevin Gastelum. This is the best version of him."
Yeah, and that's what I thought after the first round. He didn't look anything like his last fight.
Right.
Yeah.
Did he change camps?
But yeah, that's what I was going to say. Yeah. Apparently, he's got a new camp, new attitude, new whole thing. I mean, and that was the thing too. His post-fight interview was kind of crazy too, how he just was, whatever. I mean, he was just super pumped about the whole thing. And
yeah, man. Yeah, he was going crazy. He was like, just like, he just let it out.
I mean, but that's the thing. It's like, Kevin or Chris Curtis is probably just, whatever. He probably thought he won the fight. Probably disappointed he lost the fight. And
completely understandable.
Now he's thinking that, but that's, to me, that's not really the way that he should be thinking. He should be thinking like a lot of these guys that.
Oh my God!
Our dog just almost knocked over.
Our dog just went in between the tripod of our camera. That's insane. That's insane. You got to be careful. You're gonna screw it up big time. Come here.
Come on, go lay down. All right, whatever.
All right, hopefully she doesn't knock it over.
Yeah, hopefully we're good now.
All right.
But anyways, what I was trying to say was that like some of these guys that have, good performances and lose, they don't see their good performance. And this is just it's just gonna get him good fights. You know what I mean? And I think that maybe he's missing the fact that by like going off on Twitter and whatever, he doesn't have to do any of that because your performance stands by itself. And these guys who come in and have great performances, like Fiziev a couple weeks ago, you think he's coming out there and complaining that he lost or whatever?
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
No, yeah.
He knows that, like, the smart guys know a good performance is going to get them good fights.
Right. Yeah. It's not exactly, if you won or lost. Right. That's another great thing about the UFC is like you can go out there and lose a really tough matchup, but you don't lose any stock whatsoever. How many fights do we see that like two guys go out there into a war and they both are better off for it at the end? You know what I mean? No matter who gets knocked out or who wins or whatever.
Right. And we also see guys who come out and give crappy performances and aren't ready and whatever, don't show anything, and they get cut. You know, and that's what happens. You have a couple bad fights like that, and they're there to sell tickets. Like if you're going to come in and sell tickets, people are going to want to see you. Like I'm going to watch Chris Curtis every time he fights because he's an exciting fighter. Now, I'm not saying that for every fighter because I don't really think that's the case for every fighter. But
for sure,
but if Chris Curtis is going to give a performance like that, then absolutely, he should be getting some good fights.
Definitely, yeah. One thing before we move on from Kelvin Gastelum, anybody who watches Barstool, you probably don't know these guys, but he looks exactly like this guy named Jeff D'Lo, mixed kind of with another guy named Ken Jack from Barstool. If anybody watches them, you'll be laughing right now because
I don't know who they are, but yeah,
it's insane.
I believe you.
It's insane. It's actually really, really fucking funny. He looks a lot like Jeff D'Lo, has a little bit of Ken Jack mixed in. I like them. I like them from Barstool. But yeah, we were joking during the fight. We were like, holy fuck, that's Jeff D'Lo. But yeah, if you guys know who they are, you'll probably be laughing right now because that's pretty fucking funny.
That is funny.
Yeah, I mean, we can move on if you want to main card.
Yeah. Or I don't know. I just wanted to look and see the rankings because I like to look ahead a little bit and see what's in the future for Gastelum even and Chris Curtis. But trying to find the middleweights here, but Gastelum went up to 11. He was 15.
Yeah, that's another thing that Chris Curtis was saying on Twitter, that he said if he was saying that Gastelum jumped up how many? 4 spots in the rankings.
Yeah.
Curtis was saying that if he won, he would only jumped up 1 spot. I don't know how he gets that.
Yeah, whatever. He doesn't know what he's talking about.
He
should just shut up.
On Twitter, yeah, he should.
He should just shut up.
Because he's just, in my opinion, he's kind of making himself look less than. He's a great fighter. Like you said, we've had nothing but good things to say about him except for his social media presence.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. To me, there's a lot of. I mean, you talk about Gastelum, who could be on the rise again. He was there, and now maybe he's back up on the rise. And maybe he's back coming up. And I don't know. After that performance, I say you jump him up to. You skip up to the middle of the rankings there, and maybe you give him Sean Strickland,
That'd be interesting because Strickland and Curtis are friends or whatever. Not friends, they're training partners.
Training partners, yeah.
Probably friends too, yeah. I think Strickland was in his corner, yeah.
Or maybe you give him Dreykus,
Yeah, that'd be sweet.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, if he's going to be up, and I think he's a guy who's already been there and has experience, and he's not like a new up-and-comer, so I really think, you might want to get him a couple more fights, and then who knows? Maybe he fights Izzy again. I don't know. I mean, he's only 31. That's the thing. That's a week for. I didn't know that. Yeah. Well, I knew it, but then I was reminded of it when the fight started, and I was like, "Wow, he's only 31." It feels like he's been around forever.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
So he's, if he's going to train like that and look like that, then you got to push him up the rankings,
right?
And see, give him somebody else that's tough, and maybe it's Strickland, maybe it's Dolice, I mean, that's but I don't know, maybe it's Costa, get him a good fighter.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure.
I mean, if he goes up again, to me, if he's that Gastelum, I think he beats Strickland, and I think he beats Costa too.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just my
He looked really good, man. Really good. And I think he was coming off a couple losses too. So really nice to see him just kind of let it out at the end. Like you're saying, he's just like screaming.
Yeah, it's amazing, stuff, really. Yeah. It's just amazing to see a recovery like that to get back.